The cry in the wreckage. The air was cold, filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Jaren walked carefully through the field of wreckage. Pieces of the alien ship were scattered everywhere, sharp, broken, dangerous. The explosion must have been huge. His boots crunched over glass. He was only a scavenger. He had come looking for parts. But something felt different this time. His heart beat faster. The silence wasn't normal. It was too quiet. Then, he heard it. A soft cry. Jaren froze. It wasn't wind. It wasn't metal creaking. It was a voice, small, weak, a whimper. "Help," it said. Jaren turned. The sound was coming from a crushed section of the ship. Smoke rose from the twisted metal. He dropped to his knees and crawled under a beam. His fingers bled as he pulled pieces away. Again, the voice came. "Please." Behind a metal door, barely hanging on its hinges, he found a tiny shape curled up in a dark corner. It was a child. Not human. Big black eyes looked up at him. Its skin was pale gray and thin arms hugged its knees tightly. It was shaking. Jaren's breath caught in his throat. The child couldn't be more than 6 years old, at least by human guess. It tried to speak, but only coughed. Jaren moved slowly. "Hey, I won't hurt you. I'm here to help." The alien child blinked. Its lips trembled. It looked down at its chest. A necklace was glowing dimly, pulsing blue light. The child touched it with shaky fingers. Mama." That word broke something inside Jaren. He picked the child up gently. The body was cold, lighter than it should be. Bones showed under the skin. The child must have gone days without food. Jaren wrapped his coat around the small body and pulled it close. "You're safe now. I've got you." As he stepped out of the wreckage, snow began to fall. The world was silent again. Only the soft breathing of the child and the crunch of his boots filled the air. He reached his rover and placed the child inside. The heat came on. The child flinched at first, then leaned into Jaren's chest and whispered something he didn't understand. Maybe a name, maybe a prayer. Back at his camp, Jaren laid the child on a soft blanket. He found a can of soup and tried to feed it, spoon by spoon. The child took small bites but never stopped looking at him with wide eyes. He found bandages and cleaned the cuts. The child didn't speak much, just one word over and over. "Mama." Jaren sat beside the small figure. "I'll help you find her," he promised, though he didn't even know what planet the child was from. He looked at the necklace. Strange symbols glowed on it, almost like a heartbeat. He touched it. Suddenly, a spark of energy pulsed through his hand. Jaren gasped. Images flashed in his mind, quick and confusing. A female alien crying, fire, screams, the child being hidden in a compartment. A final goodbye. The connection ended. Jaren stared at the necklace. It was some kind of tech, a memory keeper, a distress signal. He didn't know. But now he was sure of one thing. The mother was out there, maybe alive, maybe looking. That night, Jaren stayed awake. He didn't trust the silence anymore. The child slept near the heater, hugging the blanket. Every now and then it whimpered in its sleep. Jaren heard something outside, a crunch. He grabbed his rifle and stepped out. The snow was deeper now, but he could see prints. Not his. Fresh ones. Something had walked near his camp, circled it, and left. He aimed his light into the dark, but nothing moved. Back inside, the child sat up suddenly. Its eyes were wide. It looked at Jaren, and then at the door. Then it said, "She's coming." Jaren's heart skipped. "She?" The child pointed to the necklace. It was glowing again, brighter now. Jaren felt a chill that wasn't from the cold. Someone, or something, knew the child was alive, and they were coming. Morning came with a dull gray sky. Jaren packed his rover and wrapped the child in a thick blanket. The necklace around its neck still pulsed gently, like a soft heartbeat. The alien child hadn't said another word since last night, only held Jaren's hand tightly. They drove to the nearest human outpost, Camp Horizon, a small trading post near the wreck fields. Jaren hoped someone there could help. He didn't know what species the child was or what kind of medical care it needed. As they entered the gates, guards stepped forward, rifles raised. "Easy," Jaren said, holding up his ID badge. One guard pointed at the child. "What's that?" Jaren frowned. "A kid. I found them in the wreck." The guard looked nervous. "That's a Zalari child, isn't it?" Jaren didn't answer. He didn't know. The guard spit on the ground. "They're trouble. Should've left it to die." Jaren's jaw tightened. "It's just a kid." The guard waved him through, but the look on his face was sharp and cold. Inside the outpost clinic, Jaren waited while a nurse scanned the child. The nurse was older, with kind eyes, but even she stepped back after seeing the necklace. "This is Zalari Tech," she whispered. "That race is under watch. If anyone finds out you have this child," Jaren raised his hand. "I don't care who they are, just help." The nurse sighed. "The child is underfed, bruised, and stressed. But they'll live. If they stay, warm and fed, that's all I can say." "Can't you take them in?" he asked. She shook her head. "This isn't Earth, Jaren. The law says unclaimed aliens are to be sent to Border Hold 7. Jaren's eyes widened. "That's a cage. That place is for criminals." "Not my rule," she said softly. Later, a woman from the registry came. She wore a black coat and dark glasses. She looked at the child and made a face. "This one's dangerous." Jaren stood between her and the child. "They're just a baby." The woman ignored him. She pulled out a scanner and took data from the necklace. "This signal's been picked up by several bounty hunters," she said. "The Zalari mother was believed dead. If she's alive, she'll come, and she might not be peaceful." Jaren asked, "Then what happens to the child?" The woman smiled. "We send them far away. Somewhere the mother can't find them." The child hid behind Jaren, hugging his leg. He looked down. Those wide, dark eyes were full of fear. "No," Jaren said. "I'm taking them with me." The woman looked surprised. "You'd claim a Zalari orphan?" "I already did," he said. That night, Jaren sat near the campfire outside his rover. The child curled beside him, half asleep, wrapped in his coat. He thought about leaving, maybe disappearing into the outer colonies. But he knew that signal in the necklace could be tracked. They couldn't hide forever. The fire crackled. He stared into it. Suddenly, a voice came from the shadows. "You're not safe, human." Jaren turned, reaching for his weapon. A figure stepped into the light. Tall, cloaked, wearing alien armor. Jaren aimed. "One step closer and I shoot." The figure held up a hand. "I am not here to harm you. I followed the signal." "Who are you?" "A watcher," the figure said. "We knew this child would survive. We knew the mother would seek them." "Then why didn't you help?" The figure looked at the child. "The mother is a high Zalari. She was thought dead. If she learns you saved her only child, she will owe you a life debt." "I didn't do it for a debt," Jaren growled. "I did it because no one else would." The figure paused. "Then she will worship you." Jaren blinked. "What?" "In Zalari culture, saving a bloodline, especially from death, makes you more than a hero. It makes you sacred. The mother will kneel. She will serve. She will belong to you." Jaren looked down at the child sleeping peacefully. He shook his head. "That's not what I want." The figure gave a strange smile. "But it is what she will give." As the figure disappeared into the night, Jaren sat frozen, thoughts spinning. He felt the child shift against him and looked down. "Swaro." Child opened its eyes. Then, in a whisper that cracked Jaren's heart, it said, "Papa." She woke under stone and smoke. Her body ached. Her skin burned. Her left leg was broken, twisted under rubble. But she was alive. The alien mother opened her eyes slowly. Darkness surrounded her. Fires flickered in the distance. The wreckage of her clan's ship stretched out across the valley. She coughed, blood in her mouth. Her chest rose and fell with sharp pain. My son. The last memory she had was of placing him inside the emergency pod. Small, round, hidden deep in the ship's core. She had sealed him in and activated the necklace signal. A mother's last hope. Now she didn't know if it worked. She dragged herself forward, fingers bleeding, claws scraping the ash-covered floor. Each breath was a struggle, but she kept moving, through fire, through wreckage, through the bones of her people. The signal, the necklace. She reached under her torn robes and pulled the necklace from her neck. It glowed faintly, blue, warm, still, pulsing, still alive. Her breath caught. He lived. 3 days passed. She hunted silently through the shadows. Her body healed quickly, though scars now marked her arms and face, but her eyes were sharp again, and her ears caught even the softest whisper. She saw the hunters, those who tracked her son's signal, bounty seekers, greedy traders. They searched for the child not to help, but to sell. She killed 2 without being seen. They did not deserve to follow his trail. She climbed a high ridge and saw it at last, Camp Horizon. The signal pulsed stronger now. He was there. Her son. So close her knees hit the dirt she bowed her head. I am coming, little star, she whispered. Inside the camp, Jaren worked quietly. The child, he had named him Neo, was feeling stronger. He ate more. He smiled sometimes. He even touched the stars on Jaren's jacket and tried to count them. But that night, the necklace glowed again, brighter than ever. Jaren's chest tightened. She's close. The alien mother waited until moonrise. She moved silently through the outer fence, slipping past guards like shadow on water. She crossed the camp's edge, jumped between rooftops, and followed the signal like a thread pulling her forward, and then she saw him, her son. He was sleeping beside a fire, wrapped in blankets, safe. And a human sat beside him, rifle across his lap, eyes watching the stars. She froze. The human had guarded him, fed him, cleaned his wounds. She could smell it, care, kindness. The necklace on her chest burned hot. The light from the child's matched hers perfectly, 2 halves of one whole. Her heart broke open. Her child lived. Because of this human. Jaren stood slowly. He didn't reach for the rifle. I know you're there, he said quietly. She stepped from the shadows. She was tall, powerful, and scarred. Her robes hung torn. Her silver eyes burned with deep emotion, but her claws were not raised. She didn't snarl. She didn't speak. She walked forward slowly, step by step. Then she knelt. Her knees hit the ground. Her head bowed low. Jaren froze. What? What are you doing? She placed one hand on her heart, one on the dirt. You saved my blood, she said softly. Jaren blinked. Her voice was strong, but her hands shook. I have nothing to give, she continued. No riches, no army, no home, only myself. She looked up, tears in her silver eyes. I belong to you now. The child stirred. Mama? He sat up. The mother opened her arms wide. My son. He ran to her. She hugged him close, kissed his forehead, and cried silently into his shoulder. Jaren watched in silence, his throat tight. The child looked between them, then smiled. Papa, he whispered. The mother did not correct him. She only looked at Jaren and gave a small, respectful bow. Later that night, Jaren sat by the fire. The mother sat across from him. The child lay between them, asleep. You don't have to serve me, Jaren said. She looked at him calmly. In my culture, I must, but not as a slave, as someone who is grateful, who is loyal. Jaren shook his head. I didn't save him to get something. She gave a soft smile. That's why you are worthy. He stared into the fire. "What's your name?" he asked. She paused, then answered, "Vireen." He nodded. "I'm Jaren." A quiet peace settled between them. But far in the sky, a red light blinked. A ship had locked onto the signal. More were coming. The night was too quiet. Jaren sat with his back against the rover, rifle across his lap. Neo slept inside, curled up in blankets. Vireen, the alien mother, stood just beyond the firelight. Her silver eyes stared into the dark trees. Neither of them spoke, because both of them felt it. Something was wrong. A pulse echoed from Neo's. Necklace again, brighter, stronger. The signal had drawn her, and now others were following it. Hunters. Jaren whispered, "We need to move soon." Vireen nodded. "They've picked up the scent." Suddenly, boom, the night exploded. One of the outpost towers burst into flames. Screams followed. Red lights lit the sky. Camp Horizon was under attack. Jaren jumped inside the rover and scooped. "Up, Neo." Vireen grabbed a pack and tossed it in the back. "Where do we go?" Jaren shouted. Vireen looked toward the forest. "Deep, where machines cannot follow." Jaren didn't argue. He started the engine, and they sped off into the night. Behind them, the camp burned. By morning, they reached a hidden canyon. Water ran through the rocks. Vireen used mud and plant sap to hide the necklace's glow. Neo looked tired but calm. "We're safe here for now," she said. Jaren walked to the edge of the canyon. "They burned the camp." Vireen nodded. "They came for him." Jaren turned. "Why?" She looked down. "My son is not just Zalari, he's a seer." Jaren blinked. "A what?" "He can see what others cannot. A gift. Or a curse. Some clans want to use him. Some want him dead." Jaren sat down hard. "So I rescued a magical alien child being hunted by his own kind." Vireen looked at him. "Yes, and now you are marked." That night, while Neo slept, Jaren sat by the fire. Vireen cleaned a long cut on her arm. Her movements were quiet, graceful. Jaren finally spoke. "What does marked mean?" Vireen met his eyes. "You touched my blood. You carried him, fed him, healed him. That makes you family in Zalari law." "And what does that mean?" he asked. Her voice was calm. "It means if you're captured, they'll punish you like one of us. Or worse." Jaren sighed. "That's great." She watched him closely. "But it also means I protect you now." He raised an eyebrow. "You already said I owned you or something." "No," she said softly. "Not owned. Claimed. There is a difference. One is by force, the other by honor." Jaren was quiet. Then he whispered, "So what happens now?" Vireen answered, "We fight, or we run, but we stay together." Morning came. Vireen taught Jaren how to move quietly in the forest, how to read scents and feel when danger was near. He taught her how to aim a human rifle. They trained. They learned. And in the middle of it all, Neo laughed. He played with stones and sticks. He made shapes in the dirt. His necklace stayed quiet. But peace never lasted long. One evening, Jaren stepped away to refill water. When he returned, he saw a mark had been carved into a nearby tree, a circle with 3 claws through it. He froze. "Vireen!" he called. She rushed over, looked at the mark, and her face darkened. "They've found us." That night they moved again. They traveled through swamps and caves. They crossed frozen rivers. Neo began to speak more, short words in both languages. "Cold," he said, pressing into Jaren's coat. Jaren picked him up. "I got you, little guy." Vireen smiled quietly. "He trusts you more than he ever trusted anyone." Jaren looked at her. "Even you?" She looked away. "I wasn't there to protect him. You were." After 2 days of travel, they reached a human watch station. It was small but guarded. Jaren wanted to rest, just for one night. They walked in, and everything changed. Inside the station were 2 bounty hunters. One was human. The other was something with gray skin and a robotic eye. Both stared at Neo. "That's the seer," one whispered. Jaren moved fast. He drew his weapon and stood in front of the child. But before anyone could react, Vereen stepped forward. She raised her hand, and with a sudden, terrifying speed she leapt at the bounty hunters. One scream later, they were both on the floor. The guards froze. What did she do?" "She protected her son," Jaren growled. "And me." The commander looked at Jaren. "You with her?" "I am," he said. "Then get out," the commander warned. "You're marked now. You're not welcome here." They left that night, again, always running. But as the stars shone above, Jaren looked down at the sleeping child in his arms, and he knew one thing: he wasn't letting go. They didn't run that night. They hid deep in a rocky canyon, the moonlight barely touching the ground. Vereen built a fire using dry moss and glowing roots. The flames burned blue and gave off no smoke. Jaren sat close, holding Neo in his arms. The child had cried after the last escape. He was too young to understand the danger, but old enough to feel fear. Vereen handed Jaren a warm paste of ground fruit and herbs. "He won't eat from me anymore," she said quietly. "Only you." Jaren gave the first spoonful, and Neo opened his mouth. Vereen watched closely. Her hands trembled slightly, though her voice remained calm. "You became his father, even if by accident." Jaren sighed. "I didn't plan this, I just couldn't leave him." Vereen looked at the stars. "In my world, we say fate doesn't knock. It breaks through the wall." Jaren smiled weakly. "Guess my wall wasn't very strong." That night, while Neo slept under a soft blanket, Vereen sat beside Jaren near the edge of the firelight. "I must show you something," she said. She pulled a small round object from her belt, black and silver, with a glowing line down the center. Jaren looked at it with suspicion. "What is that?" "A memory key," she replied. "It holds our past." She tapped the side gently. A beam of light rose between them. In the air appeared a moving image. Vereen, dressed in fine robes, smiling, holding a baby. Jaren recognized Neo, much younger. More images followed. Her husband, a noble warrior with bright markings on his face. A home filled with light, joy, celebration. Then, fire, screams, explosions. Her people running. Vereen's voice came through the projection. "They turned on us, my clan. My husband died saving the escape ship. I hid Neo in the life pod and activated the signal necklace." Jaren watched in silence. The final image was of her falling, struck by debris, alone in the smoke. The memory faded. She closed the device and placed it back in her belt. "I was supposed to die that day," she whispered. Jaren turned toward her. "You didn't." She looked at him. "Because someone brought him food. Someone wrapped him in a coat and called him safe." A silence fell between them, full of unspoken things. Then she asked softly, "Why did you stay? You could have walked away at any time." Jaren didn't answer right away. Then he looked at the sleeping child and said, "Because he needed someone, and I was there." Vereen nodded. Slowly, she leaned forward and touched her forehead to Jaren's. He froze. Her breath was warm, her voice was low. "This is how my kind say thank you." And more. Jaren didn't move away. He closed his eyes. For a moment there was peace. But peace never lasted long. The next morning they heard it, a noise in the sky. A ship. Not human. Its shape was long and black, with no windows, a hunter vessel. Vereen's eyes narrowed. They followed the signal again. "I thought we masked it," Jaren said. "We did. But someone close must have leaked it. Someone from that last station." The ship began to land far off, but moving fast. Jaren looked at her. "We can't keep running." Vereen's voice was calm. "Then we don't." Jaren blinked. What? She stood tall, her robes flowing. You said I shouldn't serve you, but I choose to stand with you, to fight beside you. You are not just his father now, you are ours. Jaren gripped his rifle. Then let's make them regret coming. They prepared quickly. Jaren set traps, using wire and flame packs. Vereen sharpened her blades. She dipped them in dark oil that smoked when it touched air. Neo stayed hidden in a rock shelter, watching with wide eyes. As the ship landed, Jaren and Vereen waited behind cover. The hunter. Doors opened. 3 figures stepped out, one with a metal jaw, one with 6 eyes, one strangely human. Jaren frowned. The one in the middle. I've seen him before. Vereen growled. His name is Kareth. He's the one who tried to take Neo as a baby. They came for him again. She nodded. The hunter with the metal jaw spoke. Give us the seer. We'll let you live. Vereen stepped out, her blades glowed. Come take him. The battle was fast and violent. Jaren shot first. One hunter fell. Vereen spun through the air, her blades slicing like lightning. Kareth tried to grab her, but she struck his chest hard and sent him flying into the rocks. Jaren fought 2 others hand to hand. Blood, black and red, splashed. The ground. Finally, silence. Only one remained, Kareth, injured but standing. He looked at Vereen, then at Jaren. Then he laughed. You think this is over? He hissed. You think one human and one broken mother can stop the galaxy? Jaren raised his gun. No, he said. But we can stop you. And fired. Kareth fell. The canyon was quiet again. Jaren and Vereen stood side by side, breathing hard. Neo ran to them, smiling, arms wide. He hugged both of them, and for the first time, truly, the 3 stood not as strangers, but as a family. The sky was quiet again, but not for long. Jaren stood at the edge of the canyon, watching smoke rise from the wrecked hunter ship. Kareth and his team were gone, but he didn't feel like they had won. Vereen sat beside the fire, wrapping bandages around her arm. Her blades lay on the ground, still stained dark. Little Neo sat close to her feet, playing with a rock and humming softly. Jaren turned and asked, How many more are coming? Vereen's voice was low. Too many. He walked back toward her, picking up a map he had drawn in the dirt. We can head to the eastern rim. There's a hidden human station, near the cliff colonies. Vereen shook her head. They will track us. They want Neo, they want me. He looked at her. And what do you want? She looked up. You. Jaren froze, her voice softened. You gave him back to me. You gave me back to myself. I was broken, but now I have purpose again. He looked down. His voice was quiet. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a hero. She stood and touched his shoulder. You're a father now. That's greater. The next day they traveled east. Forests gave way to hills. Hills turned to glassy plains. Insects buzzed over tall, glowing grass. The air shimmered with heat. Vereen taught Neo how to sense danger, how to stay silent, how to read a creature's mood. Jaren taught him how to make fire, how to boil water, and how to aim a slingshot. The small family moved like shadows through the wilds. But word had already spread. Jaren didn't know how, but bounty, signs had gone up. His face. Vereen's face. A child's silhouette marked with the Zilari symbol for seer. Someone wanted them captured, dead or alive. One evening, they found a cave hidden behind a waterfall. Inside was dry stone, deep tunnels, and safety, or so they thought. While Neo slept, Jaren and Vereen sat at the cave's entrance, watching stars. I've never asked, Jaren said. What will your people do when they find us? Vereen's jaw tightened. They will demand I give him up. The seer belongs to the council, not the mother. And if you say no, they will call it betrayal. Jaren looked at her carefully. Will they kill you? Vereen did not answer. The next morning the answer came. Dozens of shadows moved across the sky. Ships with long silver wings and glowing red marks. Solari clan vessels. Vireen stood silently, watching them land. Jaren reached for his rifle. "We can fight." "No," she said. They came for words first. The lead ship opened. Warriors stepped out in rows, tall, sharp-armored, eyes cold. In the center walked a woman with robes of black and gold. Her face was like Vireen's. "Older, colder sister," Vireen whispered. Jaren's eyes widened. The woman raised her hand. "Vireen of the fallen flame, you broke our code. You hid the seer. You aligned with a human." Vireen stood straight. "I protected my son." The woman's voice grew louder. "You shamed our name. But we offer you one last choice. Return with us. Hand over the child. Clean your bloodline." Vireen shook her head. "No." The warriors stepped forward. Neo screamed. The child ran to Jaren and hugged his leg tightly. "Don't let them take me." Jaren raised his rifle. "You'll have to go through me." A warrior growled and stepped forward, but Vireen moved faster. She pulled her blade and threw it at the ground in front of them. Flames burst up, crackling and spinning. Her voice boomed. "He is mine. I reject the council. I reject your chains." Gasps came from the warriors. The sister's eyes narrowed. "You would cast yourself out?" Vireen turned to Jaren and took his hand. "Yes." For them, Jaren didn't expect what came next. The sister reached into her robe and pulled out a black gem. She crushed it in her palm. "Then be hunted," she whispered. All the warriors lifted their hands. Vireen grabbed Neo and Jaren and shouted, "Run!" They fled through the forest. Energy blasts hit trees behind them. Jaren ducked, pulling Neo behind a rock. Vireen spun through branches, her blades flashing to knock away darts and fire. Jaren returned shots. One hunter fell, but they were outnumbered. He turned to Vireen. "We can't outrun them forever." Vireen's eyes flashed with something fierce. Then, "We stop running." They reached a hill of old ruins, broken towers left by an ancient race. Vireen threw down her pack. "This is where I take a stand." Jaren set up defense walls with old metal. "We won't survive this." But he looked at Neo, who held both their hands, and he whispered, "We have to." The warriors came at sunset, and the human and the alien mother stood side by side, for their child, for love, for something greater than blood. The ruins stood quiet in the early light. Jaren adjusted the old steel plates he had placed around the hilltop. They wouldn't stop energy weapons, but they might buy time. Vireen stood near the broken tower. Her blades were sharp. Her armor was old but strong. Her eyes held fire. Neo sat hidden deep inside the ruined temple, wrapped in blankets, holding a carved wooden figure Jaren had made him. This was their last stand. From the tree line below, the Zalari warriors gathered. More than 20, all armored, all ready. Jaren looked to Vireen. "They're not just here to scare us now." She nodded. No more words, only war. He sighed, loading the last round into his rifle. "Then we give them something to remember." A sharp voice echoed through the air. "This is your final call, traitor." Vireen stepped onto a stone ledge, raising her voice. "I am not a traitor. I am a mother." "And he?" the voice barked. "That human, what is he to you?" Jaren looked up. For a moment he thought she might hesitate, but she didn't. She raised her chin. "He is my bond, my heart, the father of my child." Gasps came from below. Jaren stared at her, stunned. She turned and smiled gently. "You were more than a rescuer. You became our home." The first shot came without warning. It blasted the ground beside Jaren, throwing dust and stone into the air. "Here they come!" he shouted. The warriors charged. Jaren fired. His bullets hit shields and armor, but he kept going. Vireen leapt from rock to rock, her blades spinning. She moved like flame, fast and wild. Still more came. They were surrounded. Jaren's shoulder burned, hit by a blast. He dropped behind cover, breathing hard. Vireen stood over him, blood on her blade. She held her arm, bleeding too. "We can't hold forever," he said, voice hoarse. "No," she replied, eyes blazing. "But we can protect him." They looked toward the ruined doorway where Neo's eyes watched, wide and afraid. And then something changed. A sound like thunder filled the sky. A ship, big, silver, and fast, rushed overhead. Jaren shielded his eyes. "What now?" The ship circled once, then dropped low. Symbols marked its side. Human military, Federation Rescue Division. The ship opened midair, and soldiers in black and blue dropped on ropes, weapons ready. They took formation quickly. One officer stepped forward. "Stand down. You are surrounded by human Federation forces." The Zalari hesitated. Jaren shouted, "They're attacking civilians. A child." The officer looked at Vereen, then at Neo. "Stand down," he repeated. One of the Zalari lunged. He was shot mid-step. Smoke filled the air. The Zalari warriors slowly dropped their weapons. Vereen stood frozen. Jaren lowered his rifle, falling to one knee. Exhausted, the battle was over. Later, they sat inside. The Federation ship. Vereen's wounds were bandaged. Neo was fast asleep in Jaren's arms. The officer spoke to them gently. "We picked up the bounty alerts, but when we scanned the child, we saw something else." Jaren frowned. "What do you mean?" "He's a seer, yes, but not just that. His blood, it reacts to human DNA." Vereen blinked. "How is that possible?" The officer smiled. "You bonded with a human. In your culture, it's symbolic. In ours, it's family." He looked at Jaren. "We can offer protection, a place to live, not as refugees but as citizens, together." Vereen looked at Jaren. "What do you want?" He looked at her, at the child in his arms, and finally he smiled. "I want to stop running." Weeks passed. They settled in a quiet colony on a green. Munio went to school with other children, some human, some alien. Vereen planted bright flowers outside their home. She taught self-defense classes and sang old Zalari songs at night. Jaren fixed machines, helped build homes, and told bedtime stories. One evening, as stars lit the sky, Neo ran outside and pointed upward. "Look, Mama. Papa. A comet." Jaren stepped out holding Vereen's hand. They watched together, quiet, peaceful, whole, from a world of wreckage and war, from a cry in the dark. A new family was born, one built not by blood, but by choice.